Okay, so welcome to the meeting of the North East Derbyshire District Council's Cabinet. It's the 4th of August at 4:30 or just after. With me in the chamber is Councillor Cupit and Councillor Kenyon. We have Mrs. Sternberg, Mrs. Dethick, Matt Broughton, Alan Marr, and it's Tom Scott from Governance. And then on the screen we have Kath Drury and Mark Foster, Councillor Mark Foster as well. So first item is apologies for absence. Have we received any, Alan?
Yes, Chair, we've got received apologies from Councillor Parkin, Councillor Powell and Councillor Renwick. Brilliant,
thank you. And then the next item is declaration of interest. I don't think there are any. No. And then the next item is minutes of the last meetings held on both the 7th of July and the 21st of July because we had an extraordinary one. I'm happy with them. I'll happily move them. Okay, that's seconded by Councillor Cupit. All those in favour? Okay, that's carried. And then the next item is the council plan performance update. And I'll hand over to Kath just to briefly talk us through that, if that's okay.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, everyone. So as you know, this is the Q1 performance report, April to June of the council plan targets. You'll know from the front, from the first page of the report, there are 77 targets left in the framework. 49 of those are on track at Q1. 27 of those have been achieved previously. And then there's one today that there's a recommendation around replacing that. So I'll cover the report generally, and then I'll talk about the target that there's a specific recommendation around. So as you'd expect at Q1, everything's pretty much going okay, which is good. But just a couple of things I wanted to draw members' attention to. So under our economy, obviously 10 targets are on track, which is all good. But just to note the very positive update on Eco 15, which is on page 17 of your report regarding the Eckington's job fair that took place on the 12th of May. Very well attended and very well received. So the officers put a lot of detail in on that update. So I just want to draw your attention to that. And then under our environment aim, just 6 targets on track and 8 have already been achieved. Just to draw members' attention to environment 13 and environment 14 targets, both on page 21. The first one is concerning the issuing of fixed penalty notices for litter and dog fouling. So that's already ahead of outturn at Q1. The target was for 9 and they've already issued 11 fixed penalty notices in Q1. And target 14 is all to do with litter picks. They plan to do 3 litter picks in Q1 and they've done 4. So it's just to note those ahead of target outturns, which is very good under environment. And then lastly, under the residents one, 22 targets on track have already been achieved. But just to note, under target number 12, Res 12 on page 23, really positive update about website accessibility and usability of the website, with the council having an excellent rating for both accessibility and user experience in Q1. So obviously accessibility is really important, and we've done a lot of work generally in this area across the council to improve accessibility to services. So it's good that the website is achieving high results there as well. And then for services, 21 left open targets and 11 are on track, and we've already achieved 10 of those targets. So that just gives you a general flavour of the targets, council plan targets at Q1. And then if I just move on to environment number 17, which, if you can recall, the original target is all to do with measuring percentage of cases of waste crime where there's sufficient evidence to prosecute. So it was to do with the environmental health officer, the length of time for them to put the file together, to then pass on to legal for them to take action. Obviously, this is a very internal focused target, and the desire was to have a more external focused target. So the recommendation, or what's been put forward around this target, is to deliver 1 high profile print and social media campaign per quarter on an environmental health enforcement topic with the aim of influencing behavioural change. And the idea behind this target is it will give Ken Eastwood and his team the ability to include a lot more detail about what environmental work they've been undertaking, what prosecutions they've undertaken, how many fixed penalty notices they've issued. So the idea is that a lot of information will be provided under this target, which encompasses more what work is being done in that area. So that's the replacement target that's coming forward today. As you know, I do go to audit scrutiny before I bring the report to Cabinet, and audit did ask me to pass on some comments regarding this target. They've got no particular issues with the target as such, but they would also like an additional target that evidences more the influence of behavioural change. So this target includes that, the revised target, but they would like a target in addition which evidences that. Now, obviously, this is the last year of the current corporate plan. We will be building a new corporate plan, a new council plan at the end of this year. So it may be that comment's brought into consideration when we think about specific targets under the new council plan. The audit committee was also quite keen to keep the existing target around the prosecution file, but once again, that is retained by Environmental Health Management. It is part of their internal management dashboard, so they are keeping a watch over the performance in that area. But I obviously was tasked with providing that feedback, so I've given that feedback to Cabinet. And that concludes the report from my perspective, Chair.
Thanks very much, Kath. Yeah, I remember we had some discussion around EMV 17 at the previous meeting. It did feel a bit sort of niche, if you like, and quite bean counter-ish. And actually, I think the proposed new target there is far better in a lot of ways. It's more outward facing, and also it's focusing on prevention, really, isn't it? It's about sort of demonstrating the high profile sort of work that we are doing around environmental enforcement with the aim of trying to stop people from doing some of the things that need enforcing in the first place. So for me, it's an all round better target. Obviously take on board the comments of audit, but I think what's proposed there is the right thing and is easier to understand actually what we're trying to achieve, whereas the original target, it doesn't really tell us a lot, I don't think, personally. Councillor Cupid, do you want to come in?
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, I agree. I think that from discussing this proposed new target with Ken as the head of environmental health, the idea, as you mentioned, Kath, was to have behind it in that sort of box regular updates on sort of what's been happening in terms of prosecutions, because any prosecutions that we do, obviously, it's sad that we have to do them, but it is a good news story that we've been able to catch people and deter them. So I'm comfortable that what I think Audit Committee were asking for will be incorporated in this new target, because the information will be added behind it, and that was the conversations that I've had with Ken. So I'm quite comfortable with it for the same reasons you've outlined, Chair. So I'm happy to see how it goes, and as you say, we can, when we review the plan over the next year, we can sort of incorporate any changes as necessary as well.
Brilliant. Councillor Kenyon.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, more of a general comment, which is the performance reports, it's good for what it does, but it does always leave me a little bit frustrated, because what isn't captured is all the things that weren't set up as targets 3 years ago that we do, which are huge pieces of work, levelling up bids, a new leisure centre, things like that. And somewhere along the way, we've got to find a way to capture those things as well, because otherwise it's underrepresenting the performance of the council. And I always think that's a shame. And one day we've got to find a way to present the extra things that get added into officers' workload, as well as the things that we anticipated. So it's just a general comment, really. But yeah, I'll leave it there. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks, Councillor Kenyon. Absolutely agreed. I think part of the desire around updating the council plan over the next few months will hopefully address that, because I think the performance targets are based on a council plan that was written pre-COVID, pre-town deal, all of these things that we know about that have happened since. So it does feel like we're working to a slightly out of date now plan, and I think that needs updating as part of that work, really. Otherwise, though, it's a good report. It all makes for good reading. We're doing well, it seems, on most of those KPIs. So I'm happy to move the report. Councillor Kenyon. All those in favour? Okay, that's carried. Thanks very much, Kath, for your team and all the work on that. And then the next paper then is the MTFP budget monitoring report for Q1. In the absence of Councillor Parkin, I'm going to hand over to Jane Dethick to talk through this one.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, happy to do so. So the purpose of this report is to update on the financial position to the 30th of June. Current forecast is to underspend by 122k, but this is just Q1. There's a long way to go yet. Main variances are highlighted at 2.2 to 2.5 of the report. Bit of a mixed bag in Q1, if I'm honest. Pay budget savings make up a good proportion of the underspend. Full details are in Appendix 1 and Appendix 2, should you wish to consider them in more detail. Table 2 in the report shows that we've achieved our efficiencies that were needed for 22-23. We fully expected to achieve those in Q1. The target was very low this year at 111,000. But more importantly to note are some of the budget pressures that we've started to identify, detailed at 2.9 in the report, and we'll be giving those careful consideration as we review the budgets at the end of the next quarter. Some of the pressures will be capitalised, some we can fund from reserves, but nonetheless the utilities, the fuel and the higher than expected pay award are all going to put significant pressures on the budget this year and in the case of pay award future years. In terms of the HRA, there are very few issues of note, very few variances, so I'll just point you to Appendix 4 to provide the Q3 position. And in terms of capital expenditure, Appendix 5's got the scheme by scheme details. Bit of slippage in the first quarter, which isn't overly unusual as contracts get up and running. One of the bigger concerns we've got is the rising cost of contracts that we're seeing within the capital programme, and that's something we're going to have to pay some close scrutiny to as we review the budgets later on this year. Finally, Appendix 6 has got the Treasury Management activity for Q3 for your information. I'm happy to take any questions and move back to you for the recommendations, Chair.
Okay, thanks, Jane. Any questions? Councillor Kenyon?
Yeah, more of a general one. Well, two really. Obviously, difficult times financially for all sorts of organisations. So I'm just wondering how are other councils getting on would be one question. I know we had any feedback about their difficulties. And the second one is with the cost of living, have we any thoughts yet about how that might affect council tax income or rent income for HRA? Thanks.
Yeah, both excellent questions. I actually met with my colleagues across Derbyshire just yesterday afternoon, and we had that roundtable discussion because we're all very nervous about the impact on utilities. The utilities and the fuel is less of a long-term pressure, so we're all relatively comfortable that we've either got surpluses within the year or surpluses reserves set aside that we can meet them. They're maybe not going to be long-term pressures. The one that's worrying most of us is the ongoing impact of the pay award, because of course you'll know that we have to build the pay into the base. So if pay is going up, I mean the national offer's averaging out at about 7%. That's a significant growth to the budget year on year. And we've all got some concerns about that. We've decided as a group to lobby the Treasury on that point and DLUC just to make them aware of the impact on us. We'll wait to see whether that yields fruit in the settlement before Christmas, but it certainly is a major impact. The second question was, remind me, I've got a memory like a sieve. Yes, not yet, not as yet. We've not seen any major issues on our rent collection and council tax collection yet, but the real issues are yet to bite, aren't they? The utilities are yet to bite, and when people are going to have to make a choice. So something we've got on our radar and something that we're going to have to monitor very closely over the coming months, but I would almost certainly expect it to impact on Q4. And I'll report back to you on that one. Yeah.
Thank you.
Brilliant. Thanks very much for that. Any other questions? No? Okay. I'm happy to move the recommendation. Do we have a seconder? Yeah, Councillor Cupit. All those in favour? Okay, thank you. That's carried. And the next item then on the agenda, I think it's urgent items. It is urgent items, of which there are none. So I'm happy to declare the meeting closed. Thanks very much for joining us.